these pardons that involve matters that raise significant questions.
We're back with the big deal. This week, President Trump pardoned more than 70 allies and associates who tried to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Here's a look at some of the big names on that list. It includes former New York City mayor and attorney to the president, Rudy Giuliani, former Trump White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and 4 attorneys with connections to the president. Now, these pardons represent another attempt by Trump to further his false claim that the 2020 election was rigged and to rewrite the history of January 6th when his supporters stormed the Capitol. Joining me now with more on this is Michele Goodwin, a constitutional law professor at the Georgetown University Law Center. Professor, great to see you. There is no legal review when it comes to presidential pardons, and Congress has no role in confirming or canceling them, which makes it a really kind of unchecked power. Why did our founding fathers want to put presidential pardons into the Constitution?
Well, if you think about the Bill of Rights, it protects individuals against the tyranny of the state. Our first 10 amendments to the Constitution, you had framers who were thinking about a heavily fisted government imposing harms on people such that we're protected against searches and seizures without warrants. For example, in the Fourth Amendment, people are granted the right to be able to have attorneys and reasonable bails in the Sixth Amendment. There should be no cruel and unusual punishment in the Eighth Amendment. So the very idea were people who are coming from an oppressive regime. Then you have this built into the Constitution, then, that individuals who deserve clemency when they've recognized perhaps what they've done wrong against the federal government, that they've shown some form of contrition, that we can have a forgiving government. The key piece of this is that we have someone who is discerning, who acts with good judgment, and who isn't looking to profit from doing clemency deals or pardoning people. So typically what we've had is a government where there's been tremendous respect for the president being able to pardon people who've committed crimes against the government or federal crimes. We find ourselves in a highly unusual situation in the Trump administration, given that what you've just started with, individuals who were convicted of a conspiracy against the government and an attempt to overthrow the last, not the last election, but the 2020 presidential election.
Well, but then what's odd about it also is that the people that were pardoned this week have not actually been charged with federal crimes. Most of them are facing state level charges. So if those pardons are then mostly symbolic, what is the symbol that's being projected?
That's right, because it's important to know that what a president can do is to pardon those who've been convicted of federal crimes. But that symbolism may be showing any number of things. It may be to further secure a base that believes there was nothing wrong that took place in 2020, even though there were more than 60 judges, including some that were appointed by President Trump, who said he lost the election, that there wasn't the level of fraud that he had claimed, that there was, that Joe Biden had won. And so this symbolism could stir up the base, give some sense that the president still believes that there was something fraudulent or untoward in the 2020 election. There are speculations that it could be symbolizing and reaching in other directions that might inure some benefit to the now sitting president. And there is deep concern about that, ethical concerns about that.
Absolutely. Now, on his first day in office, President Trump pardoned more than 1,500 people who faced prosecution for that attack on the U.S. Capitol back on January 6th, including for seditious conspiracy and acts of violence. Is it normal for presidents to pardon people who have committed acts of violence against the government?
No, and let's be clear that January 6th was a day in our nation's history that was extraordinary. Prior to that, the Confederate flag had never made its way to our nation's capital. On that day, there were people who died. There were officers that were severely injured, traumatized. People defecated in the Capitol. I mean, it was extraordinary. And so we've never had something like that in the United States, and certainly not a president who would pardon individuals who engaged in crimes such as that, which we all have seen, and it's extraordinary and horrific. The kinds of things that we saw on January 6th would be that where if it were another country, the United States would be saying, let's help you with your democracy because clearly it's unstable.
Also worth noting, of course, that several of the people that Trump pardoned have gone on to commit other violent crimes after January 6th. Now, besides the
That's
people,
right.
besides the people who have political connections to the president, Professor, we've also seen others pardoned, like the founder of Binance. I'm thinking about Cheng Zhao. He's got ties to the Trump family's cryptocurrency business. If it turns out that the president is actually deriving a personal financial benefit from his pardons, is there any recourse? And, I guess in the long term, do we need to put limits on the pardon power?
Well, there could always be impeachment of the president for violating the emoluments clause or for any untoward dealing. What makes these spaces complicated is that there was a case before the United States Supreme Court that implicated the president and the actions on January 6th. And out of that case came a stunning Supreme Court decision which grants near absolute immunity for the president and any engagement in crime while in office. Now, it's stunning. The idea behind it is that so long as the president is doing something that is within presidential authority and furthering the president's office, then those would be actions that are immune from criminal prosecution. The concern is where does one actually draw that line? And what you've just spoken to are these pardons that involve matters that raise significant questions. And if you give me just one quick moment, in law school, students are guarded and warned that their action should never even give the perception of something that would be unethical, unprofessional, untoward. And one carries that with a kind of thinking into Congress and also into the office of the presidency. But what we see is that that is significantly been disregarded in this particular presidency. And that's been noted even by Trump appointed federal judges.
Okay, a lot of food for thought there. Thank you very much, Professor Michele Goodwin. Great talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.